That's not gonna work. This is way better. Okay, hi guys, welcome back. We are back with another monthly wrap up, and today we're going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of April. April was such a good reading month for me. I didn't anticipate how many new releases were coming out. I mean, I knew a lot of new releases were coming out, but for some reason I forgot. So I didn't take that into account when I was making my April TBR video. I don't even remember what books I picked for my April TBR. We need to go back and find what books that I actually had picked. So last month I did Instagram picks my April TBR, and in that video we picked 6 books, which were Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, The Idiot, Icebreaker, Divine Rivals, Daisy Darker, and The Wishing Game. And out of those 6 books, I read one of them. Like I said, I didn't really account for all of the new releases that were going to be coming up, and they were all super anticipated releases for me. There was just no way I wasn't going to pick them up when they dropped. I sincerely apologize, but you know, that's life. What can you do? Moving on, now on to the books I read in the month of April. The first book I read in the month of April was Flawless by Elsie Silver. This was my first ever Elsie Silver book, and I absolutely loved it. If you guys don't know about Elsie Silver or about this kind of cowboy universe that she has created, this is the first book in the Chestnut Springs series. The Chestnut Springs series is sort of like interconnected standalones. I believe it's about the Eaton family, and it kind of, each book is a different sibling or brother. I'm pretty sure the first book is about Rhett Eaton, and he is a bull rider. He's kind of known for being this sort of bad boy, definitely has a reputation with the ladies. There's this sort of incident that happens that kind of blows up in the media realm, and he is assigned essentially a babysitter by his agency to get back in the good graces of the media. That's where Summer comes in. She's kind of sent in to kind of earn her place at the agency a little bit and kind of prove that she can handle this bad boy reputation and kind of turn his image around for the public eye. This book I ended up giving a 4-star. I absolutely loved it. This was actually my first ever really cowboy kind of romance. I didn't think that I was going to be into it. Actually pretty surprised because a lot of people say the first book in the series isn't their favorite. Not that it's not good, but like once you read the full series, they're like, yeah, the first book like isn't my favorite out of all of them. And I thoroughly enjoyed this, so I'm very excited to see how this could get better. I really loved this book, and I highly recommend. And if you don't think you'll like cowboy romances, pick up this series. Trust me, I was in the same position as you, and I did not think I was gonna be a cowboy romance girl. And here we are. And I haven't been able to put down cowboy romances since. Next up we have is One Day by David Nichols. I had been wanting to pick this up for quite a while because I really wanted to watch the show, and funny enough, I read the book and finished it pretty early into the month of April, and now it's May and I still haven't watched the show, and that was the whole reason I wanted to read the book. So I need to do that. I still kind of am not sure what my stance is on this book. I have obviously sat on it for quite a while now, and I don't know. I just am not quite sure how I feel about it. I feel like at the beginning of this book, I had already seen so many other booktubers read this, and none of them really loved it. When I first started this book, those opinions played a lot into my attitude going into this book. I feel like it did cloud my judgment a little bit, seeing other people's opinions, and I really do think I would have rated this much higher if I didn't have those preconceived notions of what it was gonna be like. I did end up rating this a 3 stars. I am actually very surprised that I even rated it that high because of seeing everyone's ratings being like a 2 and under. I did not think I was gonna like this book at all. I did quite a bit of it on audiobook, and I think that really helped me. If you guys don't know what this is about Emma and Dexter. The setup of this book is unlike anything I've really read before. I felt like at first it was super hard for me to follow along, and it was a little confusing with the timeline and everything. Something in me is just a sucker for the tropes, the people who keep missing each other. I love that trope for some reason. It's always where they seem so perfect for each other, and it just seems like time is never on their side. And I love that trope, and this is very much kind of what that's like. I think it was about 50% in where I really actually started to enjoy this book. Quickly started to realize while I was listening to it and reading it that I was getting sad at the sad parts and I was getting happy for the characters at the happy parts. And it made me realize that I was enjoying this book a lot more than I thought I was. And the end definitely got me a little bit emotional, and that bumped up my rating quite a bit. For me, 3 stars is I enjoyed it. I would probably recommend it, but it's not something that I'm gonna continuously rave about, if that makes sense. And that was this for me. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. By the end, I was definitely emotionally invested in these characters. If you want to pick this up, I highly suggest doing an audiobook. But either way, I still would definitely recommend this book. And I'm very curious to watch the show now. For book number 3, we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Now this book, this book I ended up giving a 3-star as well. It's hard because I also gave One Day a 3-star, but they are 2 completely different genres. I liked One Day more than I liked Divine Rivals, but within their genre, I would still give this a 3-star. If you haven't read Divine Rivals yet, this is about these 2 people. They kind of have a you've got mail situation. They're workplace rivals and they're competing for the same position. They start sending each other letters and getting to know each other through these letters, but they don't know they're talking to said workplace rival. This was the first kind of cozy fantasy that I read. This is not a high stakes fantasy. I also don't like how they market this as an enemies to lovers, because it's not that at all. This is a rivals to lovers. They don't hate each other. It's not that intense. That's why I would consider this a little bit more of a cozy fantasy. Because of that whole reason, I had a little bit of a hard time getting into this book because I had never read a cozy fantasy before. I feel like this book I'm just a little bit indifferent on. The romance was good and I thought it was cute, but it wasn't like I was extremely excited for the characters to get together, or I didn't really feel super passionately about them. I didn't really care about the politics that was going on in the story. I was just kind of reading it and just enjoying it along for the ride, but I would just kind of like, okay, it was good, moving on. I liked it for what it was. But I would say just personally, I'm not a huge cozy fantasy person. But if you love cozy fantasy, you would love this book. So I still would definitely recommend it for people who love this kind of vibe. But I just don't think it was my vibe. The last couple books that I'm going to be talking about that I read in the month of April, I'm not going to go into too much detail about how I felt about them, just because I'm currently editing a little reading vlog that I did for you guys. So that should be coming out within the next week. In that video, I'm going to be giving my full extensive thoughts and reactions. So for book number 4 that I read in April is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I don't even know where to start. This book is the first book in the Rose Hill series. Oh my gosh. It's so good. I haven't even begun to finish the Chestnut Spring series, like I said before, and this one is the start of a new interconnected standalone series that Elsie Silver is doing, and I believe it's going to be more billionaires. It is set in the same universe as the Chestnut Springs, but it's a whole new set of characters. This is about billionaire Ford Grant, and he is opening a record studio when his best friend's little sister Rosie moves back into town. And they've always had this sort of chemistry going on. They're both older now, they've matured a lot, and obviously you know where this is going. And I did end up giving this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and we're just gonna leave that there. Next we have, you guys know what it's gonna be, Funny Story by Emily Henry. She's done it again, you guys. Emily Henry never fails. I loved this book so much. This book is about Miles and Daphne. To sum it up in the best way I can, Daphne was proposed. Her fiance, soon-to-be husband, goes on his little bachelor trip and comes back and tells her, I'm leaving you, and I'm leaving you for my girl best friend, essentially. Then in comes Miles. Miles is the boyfriend, or was the boyfriend, of said girl best friend, and the same thing happened to him. His girlfriend came home, said, I'm leaving you for my guy best friend. Daphne and Miles are put in this really sticky sort of situation. Daphne has nowhere to go. She moved her entire life to live with this man. So Daphne comes up with the grand idea to move in with Miles, which is her ex-fiance's new girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. Straight off the bat, that is such a fun concept, and I immediately knew it was gonna be good. I always say how Emily Henry books almost feel a little bit more literary fiction with a strong subplot of romance. There's always something deeper that's going on in Emily Henry's books, kind of are the main point of the story, but the romance is really what pulls it all together. In this one, this is really about finding yourself outside of a relationship. This explores a lot of themes of self-exploration, finding what you like individually, doing things for yourself, finding out who you are as a person without being connected to anyone else. I really enjoyed this book. As you guys probably guessed it, I gave this one a 5 stars. If you haven't picked this up yet, you need to. Emily Henry continues to just amaze me with every single book she puts out. It is literally always the best time of year when she puts out a new book. Last but not least, we have Powerful by Lauren Roberts. This is a little novella that she wrote about Adina, which is a side character in the first book of the original trilogy. This just came out like a couple days ago and I read it so quick. Because it's a novella, it's literally only like 200 pages. So it flew by super fast. I honestly could have read a full 400-page book on her story, and I feel like, honestly, I would have rated it higher if I did have a full story of them. Powerless was one of my favorite reads that I read last year, and so at first I wasn't gonna pick this up because of the circumstances of how the first book ended, but I thought, you know what, for you guys, I'm gonna read it and tell you my thoughts on it. I feel like originally when I read it, going into it with knowing what happened in Powerless, I did not think I was gonna like it. I had a hard time getting emotionally invested in the characters, so I thought, but I actually ended up really enjoying it. At first I rated this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. After sitting on it for a little, I ended up giving it a 4 star. Her writing is so good, and I can't believe she's just now like a new and emerging author. I'm so impressed with everything she has written. She is definitely quickly becoming one of my favorite YA authors. And I saw on TikTok that she's coming out with another novella. So I'm wondering if it's gonna be like the second book that comes out in July and then a novella and then the third book. We don't know, but I can't believe she just dropped that bomb on us. If you haven't read Powerless, what are you doing? But I definitely recommend picking up the little novella if you were on the fence about it. I really enjoyed it, and I think you will too. And these 3 books are gonna be in that little reading vlog that I was talking about, so stay tuned for that one, and you will get to see my full reactions and my thoughts on these ones. So here are the 6 books that I read in the month of April. I feel like I had such a good reading month. I feel like a lot of times I get super hard on myself because I see a lot of big booktubers who are reading 13 books in a month, and I'm like, there's literally no way I can do that. I don't have enough time. But it's not about the amount of books you're reading. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And this was a really good month for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so excited for the books I'm gonna be reading in the month of May. If you haven't watched Picking My May TBR video, go over and watch it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one.